Brennan Yanis with Sunglo, and we've got Big Cat Kevin Thomas here, and with Thomas Show Pigs, and I'd like to talk to you a little bit about. I know you sit in a very different a sector where you raise a lot of your own, and then we'll go out and purchase some stuff and bring back, and as you get pigs either from your starter program and get them into your show barn pens, or whether you buy them, I'd like to know a little bit about maybe how that transition takes place and how you go about feeding them at that particular juncture.
Well, a lot of those that we've got at our house, we're going to go pre-starter, starter, and then we've moved, basically blend a little bit the transition with some 18 and some starter, and then we're going to transition on to 18, and then pretty well stay there at that point. They're all going to be hand fed. You know, this time of year, a young one, if you could, you know, pound and a half, you know, twice a day, or some of those hogs are even on a pound twice a day. And then the hogs we've purchased for my daughter, my son, when we bring those in, we pretty well bring them in on 18G. Just to kind of notice those hogs really attack that feed when it comes in, whether, depending on what producer you buy them from or what breeder or what feed they're on. We've had no trouble with those hogs attacking that feed bucket. You know, when you walk in the barn in the morning, them hogs are going to be up. They're going to be at the gate, rattling the pens and ready to eat. And so from a consumption base, I think that you could keep those on a lower pound inclusion and maybe than what you've been doing on other things. But just the consumption and wanting to attack is something that we've really noticed when we're feeding them there in the fall.
We're ahead of where you would be in terms of on the front side of your feeding curve for your kids' pigs there at the house right now. We walk into your barn today. What do we see in terms of size of pigs and weight, and where are you at on a typical feed intake average across the board in your barn maybe today?
We're probably running right now between 75 pounds and 140 pounds. The bigger hogs would probably max be getting 3 pounds of feed a day. Those hogs in 75 and 100 are probably, you know, 2 pounds a day, something like that, maybe 2.5 pounds. You know, while we're growing them, we've just noticed that those hogs just stay really dense bodied, really round rib. They've got good back shape, our muscles there, and so sometimes back in the day that we might feed 4 and 5 pounds, you know, 3 pounds still gets it and keeps our legs and keeps our structure. And I think with the older hogs we're feeding now and limit feeding those a little more than we used to back 10, 15 years ago, I think at lower pound per day, we still keep our density and our freshness and some shape to their cavity where we don't have to just pound them with feed.
And I know that, you know, you always used to hear all that 3-to-1 on average gain on just on an average kind of a show pig, and you know, I know that there's been times where I've told people maybe feed a little bit less, and they get concerned that they're going to drop off really, really far. Do you see that within the Sunglo lineup, like 16, 18? I mean, if you're feeding that 2.5 or 3 pound, I mean, you're still getting gain. You're not shutting anything down, are you, at that point?
No, not really. I mean, I really think with a lot of the feeds we're making, I mean, I think you could feed that 130 pounder or 40 pounder 2 pounds a day and you're not going to be killing them. I mean, they've still got some dense shape to them, and their intake's good, and that feed just seems like it gets in their gut and fills up and just stays denser and fresher maybe than I've had in the past.
You know, and the neat part is, I think if you run them on a feeder, their daily intake, maybe from an appetite standpoint, maybe closer to 5 or 6. Yeah. And I've always thought it's nice to condition some of those things to maybe get more out of less. You know, I know at our place when we go to kick that up just a little bit, your response can be really interesting when you go that route. And I don't know if you see some of the same thing or not. Yeah,
we do the same. We don't really feed them really heavy in the winter. I mean, and kind of where we are genetically with what we're working with, we're not probably setting any EPD performance, you know, just rates are not what they used to be 20 and 30 years ago or 10 years ago or maybe even 5 years ago. And I think, like we said earlier, those older hogs have got to be manipulated a little bit to keep everything right. But with this feed, as dense as it feeds, we're not having to add as many additives to keep them looking right, like we're not hurting them as we're growing.
And where, you know, we always read a little bit of hurt, particularly at the top side of their shoulder. You know, and that's been something that a lot of people get concerned about when they start to to pull the brakes back on one, or maybe whoa up just a shot. You know, where do you feel like you've been right at the top side of their shoulder chine blade relationship as you've maybe been given that 130, 40 pounder, maybe 2 pound of either 18, 16 or whatever?
Well, I really don't see a big change in them. I really don't. I mean, we've got a bear that's weighing 105 to 7 right now that's on a very limited diet. Bear still reads true and fresh there. I mean, you can kind of start to see as we're growing and having some maturity in there, they start maybe reading a little age in there, but nothing that's just hurting them. Where back in the day, we would just be really concerned that we'd lose all of our top shape and our muscle and our chine would be up in them. I just don't think that's that way anymore. Especially, and I don't know what the nutrient profiles are in there, but it just seems like those feeds are just got more pop to them, more power to them. Those hogs' tops just stay a lot fresher and a lot truer even when we're setting on them.
Well, and I've always thought that's nice. The other thing I run into is some people get concerned about maybe keeping them full enough. Are there any other supplement in a lineup that you use, you know, maybe to go ahead and keep them happy, I guess, in a time where you might be on a smaller pinch from a skeletal standpoint?
You know, we use a lot. We'll use some full tank. We'll use some more fill. Both of those products seem like we can get in there and kind of have some swell and maybe satisfy them and not increase their growth, but also, you know, a lot of times back in the day when we'd up those that fiber, that old animal will go to taking off, and you can still have a dense enough feed in there that we can add a little bit of body shape and feel to them, but not take off and still maintain our freshness. And you know, your fat product, Sunglo, is something that you could always blend in there too. It just kind of depends on what you want to do there.
Well, again, we appreciate sitting down and kind of understand a little bit of how you manage your show barn, and your time's been very appreciative.
Thank you.
This is a Walton Webcasting production. Livestock like you've never seen before.